Okay, the first thing I want to tell you is when I did my first video and we were talking about planting the garden, I forgot something. And it's important, so I wanted to explain it to you. Before you write all that down and you make your plan, you want to get a hold of a list of plant families. It's real easy to do. It's on the internet. The Web Cajun has one on his website that you can get a hold of. And that'll tell you what things are related to each other. Because like if you move your tomato plants from where you had them last year and you move them to the spot where your potatoes were, they're related. The same diseases affect them, and so that'd be a bad thing. You might have had a little blight in your potato patch or whatever, and then you lose your yield. So look that up. Doesn't take long to do, and it's pretty simple. Now, first thing I want to show you today is this my little blackberry bushes I planted last year. The one clear on the right I actually bought. I was in a store shopping, and there it was on a little stand, and they were discounted. It was like $2.50. Well, then after that, a friend of mine at work had these other two growing wild in his backyard where they'd migrated from the house behind him. So I put in these three blackberry bushes last year, and they actually had a couple of berries on them. Now, this year, I've ordered 3 raspberry bushes that I'm going to put on the ends to kind of add to it. And I've ordered a rhubarb. I think that'll be kind of fun to grow. And I wanted to show you my greenhouse. Now, it's not fancy, but this one actually came from Harbor Freight, and it was inexpensive. It was a couple of $100, and we just put it together on top of some 4x4s, which is what they suggest. But it did really good last year, and it held up. It doesn't seem to have any damage, and I'm kind of excited about it next year. So, you know, nothing fancy. I've got a little soil bed on the ground here that I'll probably plant a few radishes or something in, and I built a bench from leftover treated lumber that I had that I start my seedlings on. So, only thing I would suggest if you buy one of these kits, it really helps if you've got a small-fingered grandchild to help you put it together. Some of them bolts are really small and tucked up in little corners, and it would have took me a long time to get them all put together had I not had that small grandchild to help me. And really worked out. All right, now you can kind of see in the background the raised beds. We got 3 running this way, and then 1 in the back that runs the other direction. Kind of ties it all together, makes it all nice, neat rectangle. Now there's one thing I'm going to do different this year. Last year we had such a wet, rainy year, and it was really hard for me to keep everything weeded. I work in a factory and work nights, and sometimes it rained so much there'd be 3 weeks at a time you couldn't get in and weed because it'd just always still be wet. So I've got to come up with a way that I can get it down to where, hey, I can take care of it in 30 minutes a day. So I can do it when I get home before I go to bed. So I pretty much think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mulch the whole thing. I'm just going to have it all mulched, and you want a nice thick layer of mulch. And then keep it that way. So I'll be starting more and more things in the greenhouse, and after they get 6 inches tall or so, transplanting them out into the garden. But doing it that way does 2 things for you. First of all, basically you're composting over the whole surface of your garden. So you're adding nutrients from the top all the time without having to spend money on fertilizer. And the second thing it does is that really attracts the earthworms, because that's what they eat, is that decomposing plant matter on top of the soil. So it keeps your soil aerated and nice. The earthworms, their castings are the best fertilizer you could possibly get. So that's what I'm going to try. Now also I wanted to talk to you. We're putting in for my wife this year a strawberry bed. And she has this story from her childhood of where she wandered off into a neighbor's yard and they had a strawberry patch, and she sat down right in the middle of it as a little girl, and she was eating their strawberries. And this was really a good memory for her. She really got a kick out of that. And she's told the story to me several times. So last year my son called me. He said, "Dad, I've got these things. There's some boards that are all hinged together, and they can flatten out, or you can make a square out of them. And they got metal hinges on the corners and that stick down a little below the corners of the wood." And he said, "I thought maybe you would want them, but maybe you could make raised beds out of them." Well, because I watch YouTube, I knew what they were. They're pallet collars. An allotment gardener that I watched for a while had got a whole bunch of these, and they're made to sit around the edge of a pallet to make a little lip on the edges of it so that you can put looser items on it, I guess. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put those 3 pallet collars in kind of a semicircle and put just a little bit of soil in the bottom of them and plant our strawberries. Now, then in the middle, in between the 3, I'm going to build her a little patio block patio so that she can take a lawn chair out there and sit down on that little square of patio block. And just like when she was a kid, she'll have the strawberry plants all around her. So we thought that'd be fun to do this year. And so we're going to do it. And like I say, I want to apologize one more time for forgetting about the plant families. You have to forgive me. That was my very first video that I did. And I was a little nervous. So we'll move on from there. Oh, also I wanted to say, that back bed that runs the other direction is a couple of feet wider. The rest of them are all 4 foot wide, and they're 16 feet long. But that back one is 6 foot wide. So it's bigger than the other 3, and I always end up with a little wasted space. A little space that I just don't have stuff to fill it, because I'm rotating the same thing that came out of a smaller box last year. So this year, I'm going to put in some asparagus root and try to grow asparagus. And that'll just take up a couple, 3 feet of one end. And I've never had any before. I think it'd be a lot of fun to grow. So just letting you know, touching bases, and it's a little warmer and a little nicer outside. So I wanted you to know what the plans are and what you're going to be watching us doing this summer.